The state of the gaming world today. Where the heck are we?
Hi everybody, my name is Justin, and with me I have Matt.
I am Matt.
And welcome to Game On, a channel all about tabletop gaming, from RPGs, board games, wargaming, everything in between. We like to talk about it if it's played on the tabletop. We have...
You can play it on the floor if you want to. It's okay.
We have
Beanbag chair.
Fun little question that we got from one of our subscribers asking us where we thought the state of the gaming world is. Now, I know a couple weeks ago there was another channel that did something called Have RPGs Peaked. I didn't watch that video yet because I wanted to have my own opinion before I watched his.
Okay. So officially, we have not cribbed off of that because we haven't watched it.
I haven't watched it.
No offense, we might watch it after this, and we'll see if there are ideas and ours of sort of. Anyway.
So, what are your thoughts on this, Matt?
Well,
been
I don't
for 80 years.
Yeah, thank you. I don't think of it in terms of peaks and whatever, because I've been around gaming long enough to see how cyclic it is.
Okay.
But where we are now, like observing the state of the gaming world, there's a few themes that are cropping up that seem kind of unique to me.
Okay.
Unique to this time period. And part of it is, again, virtue of me being around long enough to see this phenomenon of classic games being rebooted. And I don't mean things like the next edition of D&D coming out. That's not really what I'm talking about. But like games that were mothballed for decades, then getting dusted off and sort of respun, or at least games that were prominent 20 or 30 years ago getting a push back into the limelight. And we can talk about the cyberpunks. Yes, I know there were some cyberpunk editions that came out in the interim, but really they were barely blips on the screen, right? There was the original cyberpunk era, and then dovetailing with the video game and the new edition kind of getting its moment in the sun again, right?
Yeah.
One of my perennial favorites, BattleTech, disappeared for I don't even know how many years, and then it got splashed back into the limelight. I'm looking at the gaming shelf right now, but I mean there's many examples of it. I mean there's a new version of Vampire after that company went bankrupt. A Shadowrun.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of these games from publishing companies that literally went out of business, and then somebody took over the property and like brought it back.
Yeah.
Twilight 2000. Who would have ever thought that Twilight 2000 would have gotten rebooted?
Yeah.
But it has, and it's awesome, by the way. I'm thrilled. So, reboots of classic games. Now, I'm cynical enough to say, okay, some of this is monetary.
Okay.
They're trading on the nostalgia of games from old gamers like me who remember those originals and trying to get fresh cash out of the nostalgia factor. Cool. I'm cool with it as long as the content's good. I got no issues with them making a profit on it. And it's easier for companies to polish up existing content and than to create completely original material out of nothing.
Yeah.
So there is a production element to this, which is beneficial. Again, I got no. I recognize that these are true things, but I'm not offended by it.
Okay.
One that's slightly more questionable for me, but similar in theme, is what I think of as the gamifying of licensed content or intellectual property from various worlds, whether it's TVs and movies or books or comic books or video games, or making a tabletop RPG out of content from another genre.
Okay.
And that seems to be happening with increased frequency. Like, maybe that's because there's more content of the fantasy, sci-fi genre now than there ever has been. So there's just a deeper well of things to convert over into RPGs.
Fair enough.
And again, I think there's a monetization factor there.
Yeah.
If something's popular in one realm of creative endeavor and it sells well and it's gets good ratings and all that kind of stuff, it makes sense that somebody would want to say, hey, let's jump and capitalize on that and let's make an RPG version of it, and maybe that'll sell well with the same audience, right? Makes sense. And if they adapt stuff that I love, I have no problem with that, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, it's a little bit like, okay, guys, can't you write anything new?
Yeah.
But what if the new thing sucks? At least if it's a tried and true property, you might like it.
Yeah, fair enough.
I don't know. I'm torn on that one.
Okay.
But I noticed that it's a huge factor in the gaming world right now.
Okay.
The last one, which blows me away, and I've definitely gone down this rabbit hole, Kickstarter. Holy cow. There's more DIY small market gaming material popping up out of nowhere than there has ever been. And in the old days there was a lot.
Yeah.
But now, my God. Now some of it is legitimate small independent publishers trying to make it into the gaming world. And then some of it, I mean, let's be honest, some of it are big ticket companies that are just effectively pre-selling their content before they've produced it, because it's always good to have a healthy pre-order market for something.
Yeah.
So it was never a question of whether it was coming out. It was never a question from their perspective what they were going to publish. They just wanted to get some of their money up front. Yeah. So they Kickstarter it. Again, I got no issues. If the content is good enough and it's worth the money, I don't mind, pre-ordering something. I've never minded that. As long as I know it's coming across, I'll give them money in advance, and I have. I've spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars on Kickstarter on gaming things that are going to show up later this year or maybe early next year, I hope.
Yeah.
But that's unique to this time frame. I mean, that's never happened before in the gaming world, and it's hard to say whether it'll continue into the future. I have a hunch it probably will, but it's definitely a phenomenon that's unique to the moment that we're experiencing. And all of them have a business model aspect to them, which I don't think is a coincidence. But it also makes things pretty awesome for gamers right now, because there's a lot of stuff out there.
There is.
So, I mean, that's where I see this.
I am both incredibly happy about where we are in the state of gaming. I think that thanks to shows like Critical Role and
the
Stranger
exposure, like the pop culture, right?
It's bringing people into the game, even if they're not necessarily playing the game. There are people who know what Dungeons and Dragons is because they watch, these shows.
Not only do they know what it is, but they're favorably predisposed to it. It's not like in the 80s when people are like, D&D, that's that satanic cult thing. Yeah. No, I mean, people knew what it was back then, and they had preconceived notions that were completely off the wall, right? Now it's cool.
Yeah, we're at a point where, it's not... I mean, there are still some groups that are satanic panic about it, but for the most part, society's happy with, it's cool. It's cool to be a nerd.
Geek chic, baby.
But the issue I see is what happens when all of those popular TV shows stop running new episodes? Will people want to be part of this geekdom, nerddom anymore? Will we ever get to the point where we have too many RPGs on the market where we just, it becomes very oversaturated?
Well, I mean, that's happened before.
Yeah.
All right? I mean, that's what happened to the gaming market that virtually collapsed it. And we're seeing the resurgence now, and it's great to see all these games coming back and all these new games coming out, and D&D is on its steepest climb of popularity and profitability probably in its history. Certainly one of its best shining moments. And it's always been the sort of first line, right?
Yeah.
D&D is like the sort of the bedrock that everything else is kind of built around.
But like all markets, sometimes things peak and then they can crash.
Yeah.
It's already crashed before. Do we think it'll happen again?
My gut tells me it's not going to crash again.
Okay.
I think that there are enough people in the industry now who learned from the mistakes of the past, and they're being, like I was saying, it's a lot of these things that I'm noticing have a monetization aspect to them. I think that the current gaming market, for better or worse, is much more money savvy and much more business savvy than previous generations of gaming companies were. Right? Back in the day, even the biggest, most impressive gaming companies eventually went bankrupt because they just overextended themselves. They produced too much content. They oversaturated the market, and they just, they flew high and then they crashed hard. I think now companies are being much more mindful of the financing of their products, and as a result, I think they'll be better able to weather the peaks and, I will say, the contraction of the market, because it is going to fade when the popularity of these TV shows and other pop culture sort of promotion are eventually going to peter out. Like, those people are going to go on to different careers on different shows, and it may not promote D&D or gaming in general.
Okay.
So you're going to see a fall off. I don't think it's going to go off a cliff.
Okay.
That's my gut says it.
What's really cool, the fact that, we still have gaming stores. We still have people going out there spending their hard-earned money on games. We have so many things to choose from that I don't know if we've peaked, but we're definitely living in sublime times.
It really is strong, and I think one of the things that has made it strong is the diversification of the product.
Yeah.
The support product. I think, minis and accessories of all sorts that sort of create a whole culture of gaming rather than just a stack of books. I mean, the books are still the core of it, no pun intended, right? The core rules are the core, but there's now profit-making products in this whole sort of ecosphere that keep these companies in the black and keep them producing for the most part, and that's ultimately going to make good business is going to make for a good, healthy gaming environment.
I agree.
So I think things are pretty good, honestly.
I would say so. But I'd like to hear what you guys have to say in the comments below. Have you watched that gaming peaked video, and do you think that gaming is kind of at an all-time high? Do you think it's going to contract or fall off a cliff? Just let us know what you guys think.
Yeah, I mean, your predictions, but also your observations of where we are now, what you like and what you don't. And, if you've been around as long as I have and you have memories of the way things were and how they are now, let us know what you think.
Yep. My name is Justin.
I'm Matt.
And thank you guys very much from the bottom of our hearts for watching.
Absolutely. Sticking with us.
And as always,
game on.